We need to revision value. We need to begin to talk about first principles and first values. We need to explicate what value is based on. We need to respond to the academic critiques, which are true but partial, and to actually revision value. And that's what we've been working at the center, and be able to revision value and articulate a universal grammar of value that's real, right, is the source code move that changes reality. It's bigger than Darwin, right? It's bigger than Freud. It's bigger than Einstein, because it's not about the exterior, it's about the interior sciences. We have a huge day coming up. Okay, so David, right, Brother Davis, take us into the code. We've got a huge code for this week. Away we go. Oh.
So this week's evolutionary love code, sorry for you non-Americans here, but there's a reference, but I think you'll get it. Reality is always asking you a question. Are you ready to play a larger game? Are you willing to play baseball? Are you willing to play the largest game of baseball there is? So I'll just resonate it one more time and then we'll go back to Mark. Reality is always asking you a question. Are you ready to play a larger game? Are you willing to play baseball? Are you willing to play the largest game of baseball there is? And Mark, I turn it back to you.
Baseball! David, are we ready to play baseball? Oh my God. Okay. So this is a big week. Okay, this is a big week, and we're gonna play baseball. And we've promised, right? We've promised, and let's knock this out of the ballpark. And I got a text from Tom Goddard, Ronayne, who was with us. And just so you get how baseball, and this is not planned, how baseball finds its way. And this is a text just from a couple of minutes ago. When, we're working on a book together, Tom and I, which is based on this unique self process that we did together for many years at our wisdom school at Shalom Mountain. And, Tom's working on, a draft, based on, it's a long story, but anyways, he's working on the last version of the draft. And Tom writes me, I'm in the home stretch. I'm in the home stretch. What's the home stretch? The home stretch is from baseball. Okay, so we're going to talk about baseball. Now, if you're European, which there's lots of Europeans here, so when you think baseball, think soccer. Okay, and we're going to talk more about baseball at the intensive in Europe, but think soccer. And I'm not going to share any baseball clips, but I just want to kind of notice with everyone a few baseball movies I just want to mention that are going to be in the backdrop. And there's also a bunch of soccer movies. So now this doesn't work for football. It doesn't work for rugby. It works for baseball, right, in the United States. And I'd say in Europe, it works best for soccer, right? And so, feel free to kind of replace, baseball with soccer as you're listening, if you're listening in a European mode, right? We live in a world in which we are in this global world. It can't be any more about just the United States. The United States has played actually a leadership role in many, many ways and continues to pour into reality. And the United States is flawed like every place. And there's critiques that are valid and important about the World Bank. And David Graeber's written important critiques about how the World Bank has created debt. And there's shadows of the United States. That's absolutely true. Right? And the United States is in many ways a very great country. So America bashing is not in fashion in my heart and soul. I'd rather recognize the intrinsic and gorgeous greatness of every country. The United States, since World War II and since Bretton Woods, which was kind of the new, right, kind of world order that's created peace for 70 years in much of the world, right, has been in large part facilitated, right, by the United States. And the era of Pax Americana is ending. Right? We need to move into a new world, right? And America electing Donald Trump, right, who is, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, obviously not the right choice for president, right, who violates, right, basic human values, right, on a daily basis in the most kind of brazen way, right, kind of signaled the ends of Pax Americana. So when I talk about baseball, I'm not talking about baseball in the sense of Pax America. I'm talking about baseball in the sense of, right, a place which is holding a mystery. And if you're European, think soccer. Okay? So I'm going to talk about baseball today. I'm going to talk about baseball. And, we've promised to talk about this for a bunch of weeks. And I'm talking about baseball, of course, in context of the new story of value. And I thought this would be a great, last piece before we start with the incredible lineup, right? Incredible batters in the batter's box. We're going to be with us the next 5 or 6 weeks in one mountain, right? So baseball analogy. So this is the last, right, my kind of last sharing of this season before we get our new roster of batters up for the next 5-6 weeks. Then I'll pick up again with you in September. So here we go. We're ready for baseball? So 1. Okay. Drum roll. Do we have a drum roll here? Do we have a drum roll here? I'm actually so excited to do baseball with you. I'm crazy excited to do baseball. So let me just tell you how I got to baseball. I personally have never liked baseball. I've gone to a couple of games, and for me, baseball has always looked or felt something like when I was a kid, like, getting together to watch the paint dry. Does everyone get that? Let's get together and watch the paint dry. It's very slow. So when I was young, 8, 9, 10, I wasn't moved by baseball. Never really paid much attention to it. And then my son, Zion, who is rock star beautiful, and I planned a father-son trip for June. So we did this father-son trip, and it was a beautiful trip, and I did the trip for a lot of reasons. One is that his mom has actually been very sick, and I had the sense that that he might need to come live with me. He's been raised by his fantastic mother, who's a great teacher and writer, Mariana Kaplan. Mariana's gotten sick, and so God willing, she's going to get better. And so I wanted to do a father-son trip with Zion to kind of talk about the future. So we agreed to get together in San Francisco. I picked him up, and we got a hotel room right in the heart of San Francisco. And we spent quite a few days, just the two of us. I think it was 4 full days. And the agreement was lots of baseball. We get to eat whenever we want. So we found this little cafe next to our hotel, which was like this diner open 24 hours a day. So we would have lunch at 1 a.m. We did everything kind of just father, son, no rules, just we have to go deep. The rule was we had to go as deep as we could in everything. So we had this wild time. We went to see Harry Potter. There's one Harry Potter play that J.K. Rowling wrote, and the name of it escapes me now. If someone remembers, put it in the chat box. And so we got second row seats in the play. We went to see 2 baseball games, right? And the 2 baseball games, right, one was Tuesday evening, the next one was Wednesday morning, right? To each baseball game, we came 2-3 hours early to the game. Like for the second game, Wednesday morning, we basically opened the stadium. We were like the 3rd person in the stadium because Zion explained to me that there's batters practice, and at batters practice, you can actually get a ball, right? If, like a couple hundred people come early and the players do batters practice, sometimes you can catch a ball. So I'm like, I love my son madly. I don't like baseball. I'm saying, but I promised to come to this baseball game. And the agreement we made was no phone, no internet, no reading other books, no working on anything. We just have to watch every play together. So within 24 hours, I went to 2 baseball games. Got a major sunburn because we got the tickets the 6th, 7th row, right behind the dugout. It was, who was playing? The Kansas City Royals against the San Francisco team, the Giants, at Oracle Stadium. So here we are watching baseball, and every single scene. So I just started thinking about baseball, with Zion, what is baseball? And there's a whole bunch of baseball movies, right? So Field of Dreams, right, is one baseball movie. Okay. Field of Dreams, that's one big one, right? With Kevin Costner, I think. There's another movie called The Natural. Field of Dreams is an incredible movie, right? The Natural, right, is another baseball movie. There's Moneyball, which I'm not going to talk about today. Moneyball is about how recruitment changes in baseball, Margie. You're absolutely right. I'm not going to talk about that one today for a bunch of reasons, but Moneyball is definitely a baseball movie. There's a 3rd baseball movie called Bull Durham, B-U-L-L Durham, Bull Durham. Fantastic movie, Bull Durham. Okay, that's movie 3 that I want to kind of just mention. Another baseball movie called A League of Their Own, right? A League of Their Own, which is about how women's baseball started in the United States during World War II. Really important movie. And then there's another movie called Sandlot. And let's see if we can get all these movies in the chat box, just so you can see them all. Okay, here we go. So here's the movies. 1, Field of Dreams. Let's put them all together so people can kind of take a look at them. Field of Dreams is 1. 2 is The Natural, right? 3 is Sandlot. 4 is A League of Their Own. And 5 is Bull Durham. Those are the 5 I want to kind of just you have access to. Okay? So Field of Dreams, The Natural, Sandlot, A League of Their Own, and Bull Durham. Bulldurham. We can get Bull Durham up there? Okay, we fantastic. Right? And I'm not putting, margin, I'm not doing Moneyball because it's about something else. It's actually, let's put Moneyball up there. Right? We'll talk about what that is and what Moneyball got right and what Moneyball got wrong at a different time. Okay? So here we go. Here we go. So I'm not gonna go through the movies. I'm gonna just kind of mention them as we go. Right? This summer at our intensive, I want to look at these movies more seriously, right, in relationship to some soccer movies. But what I want to try now is kind of see with you and understand with you is, why is baseball magic? Who's heard of Walt Whitman? Everyone knows Walt Whitman. Just do a little show of hands, on the European side, right? Who knows Walt Whitman? Right? Let me just check the chat box here. Okay, we got a lot of Walt Whitman people. So who knows that Walt Whitman was a baseball reporter, right? He was a baseball reporter. And so Walt Whitman writes, early, he writes, I see, right, the great poet Walt Whitman, he says, I see great things in baseball. It's our game, the American game. And again, you could write the same thing about soccer, right, in Europe. He says, I see great things in baseball. It's our game, the American game. Now listen to this. It will repair our losses and be a blessing to us. Isn't that amazing? Right? It will repair our losses, right? And be a blessing to us. That's wild, right? That's wild. In the Bull Durham baseball movie, which stars Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon, and this is, we're in total serious mode today. We're going to totally talk about the baseball vision of Homo Amor and baseball in response to the meta crisis, but we're also playing because we got to play. All right, so we're in the midsummer, let's play. So in Bull Durham, again, starring a young Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon, right, the opening line, right, of the movie, anyone see it? Let me just take a look in the chat box here. Let's see if everybody saw it. Hold on, chat box. Chat box. Where is my chat box? Here it is. Okay, did anyone see Bull Durham? Thank you. Right? So first, before we go to Bull Durham, let's just take a look, right? Krista put the Walt Whitman quote, right? And the key is that it will repair our losses and be a blessing to us. Okay? So in the beginning of Bull Durham, which is, by the way, the all-time record breaker of baseball movies, the beginning of Bull Durham, right, Susan Sarandon does this fantastic monologue, which we just want to make a clip of for the summer festival, where she says, I've been to all the churches, I've tried Christianity and, Judaism, and I'm ad-libbing her monologue, and I've tried, tarot and candles and, meditation and, right, and I've tried prayer, I've tried everything. None of the churches work for me. There's only one church that's ever worked for me, which is the Church of Baseball. Right, so what's the Church of Baseball? What's Walt Whitman talking about? Okay, and I want to try and unpack with you baseball. And I want to try and unpack, if I can, what I want to call the 14 or 15 principles of baseball and how baseball actually represents something unbelievably important and wild, right, in society, which has, kind of insane value, which is insanely, right, important, right, and sacred and all of that. Okay? And here it is. I want to kind of say it, and then I want to try and unpack it. First, I want to say it. Baseball represents value. That's what baseball is. Baseball is about value. It's not about pre-modern value. It's not about the value the way the traditions thought about value. God gave my people value. Our value is better than yours. It's not a pre-modern traditional ethnocentric vision of value. Okay? But it represents intrinsic value in cosmos in a way that people intuitively understood that to be true before postmodernity came along and deconstructed value. Now, I've called this notion of value in kind of serious writing, which is just gonna, it's been published on the web, but it's just gonna get published more seriously this coming year. I've called this common sense sacred axioms of value. So modernity was defined by what I want to call common sense sacred axioms of value. Like choice matters, like effort is rewarded, right? Like fairness is super critical and you can't do without it, right? You got to be fair. So fairness, choice matters, effort, right? There's about 15 common sense sacred axioms of value, which when the pre-modern world fell apart and modernity came into form, these common sense sacred axioms of value became the shared grammar of value of much of modernity that the postmodern world came to deconstruct. Now, the common sense sacred axioms of value are very, very important. We can't go back to them. We can't ignore postmodernity. We have to respond to most modernity's critiques. I'm not going to do that here today in One Mountain, but we need to reclaim, right, these common sense sacred axioms of value that are represented by baseball, but this time we have to ground them. Now stay close, meaning they were just assumed in modernity. Everyone kind of said, we're going to borrow from the social capital of pre-modernity, which kind of assumed value through revelation, through meditation. Everyone assumed value. They fought about who had the best value, but everyone assumed value. That broke down, but some of the social capital or the spiritual capital of pre-modernity entered modernity. And even though philosophically people like David Hume and ultimately Immanuel Kant and then neo-Darwinism and logical positivism and existentialism, they all deconstructed value, nonetheless common sense sacred axioms of value remained. Then postmodernity came and deconstructed them. And now we need a new reconstructive project that actually integrates the best of pre-modern, modern, and postmodern understandings of value. And we need a new vision of value. That's what we're doing at the center, this new vision of value, which is core to Homo Amor. But in this new vision of value, we need to reclaim these common sense sacred axioms of value, but not unconsciously like modernity did. We need to actually root them and ground them in cosmos. That new grounding, stay close everyone, that new grounding of those common sense sacred axioms of value, and maybe we can get that word in the chat box, that new grounding of the common sense sacred axioms of value, right? We call that new grounding evolving first principles and first values of cosmos. So what we call first principles and first values or evolving first principles and first values, and I'm not going to work out, how that has solved the postmodern critique of the common sense sacred axioms of value. I'm not going to solve that right now. We've talked about that at length in a bunch of First Mountain talks we did on first principles and first values. I'm not going to talk about that now. Now I just want to focus on baseball is an expression, right, of value, and it's an expression of common sense sacred axioms of value, meaning no one has grounded them in great philosophy. They're just a given. We just know they're true. We just live in them. That's what took us through modernity until postmodernity came along and deconstructed that. Now we need to engage in a reconstructive project to take the best of pre-modern, modern, and postmodern into a new vision of value. That's what we're calling evolving first principles and first values, or what we call an evolving perennialism. That's what we call, and our name for that is the new story of value. And our name for that new story of value is cosmoerotic humanism. And if you're new to One Mountain, don't worry about that. This is a big field. You don't need to swallow it all whole now. We're trying to actually articulate here an evolution of the source code. Today we're just going to focus on baseball, okay? But first I just want to take one movie, and I'm going to go through 15 principles of baseball. I'm going to do it pretty fast, but I want to just start to just kind of ground with you this notion of baseball being about value. And I'm not going to show you the clip now. I'm just going to tell you the story and read you for a second. So in Field of Dreams, right, Kevin Costner hears a voice, and the voice says, if you build it, he will come. And then it says, if you build it, they will come. So he's in this field. He's married this woman. He doesn't quite know. They fell in love. He's not really a farmer, but they fell in love, and he winds up in a farm someplace in, I don't even remember what state. I don't remember what state. Idaho, someplace. There's someplace, right? And he's in the field. He's not much of a farmer, but he's in the field. And he hears this voice. And the voice says, right, if you, Iowa, thank you. They're in Iowa. Thank you, Stanley. They're in Iowa, right? If you build it, first he feels he will come. If you build it, he will come. And then he hears, if you build it, they will come. And he's not sure what to build. And then he sees the next morning, he sees a vision, right, of a baseball diamond. And he knows that somehow he's meant to build this baseball diamond. So he takes this big portion of his Iowa cornfield, which is a very bad economic idea, right? And he builds this baseball diamond. And then this player shows up. It was his dad's idol. And he has this broken relationship with his father. And the name of the player is Shoeless Joe Jackson, one of the greatest players that ever lived. But Shoeless Joe Jackson, right, was on, I think, a Chicago team, the Red Sox, could that be? Right? Well, I don't remember the team, but he was on a team. I think it was a Chicago team with 8 other players, right? Chicago White Sox. Thank you, Tom Renane Goddard. Chicago White Sox. And they're thrown out of the league for cheating. They actually didn't cheat. So they're thrown out of the league for a violation of value. Everyone with me? Common sense, sacred axiom, don't cheat. Right? Forget it. It's not built on any big, philosophical, just don't cheat. Right? Common sense, sacred axiom of modernity. Okay? Right? And they're thrown out of the league for cheating, which is a violation of value, but it actually didn't happen. They actually didn't cheat, which is even a bigger violation of value. They've been falsely accused. To be falsely accused is to have value violated in your soul. I actually know something about that. Okay? So these guys die. Shoeless Joe Jackson, that was his name, and these 7 other players, they die. They're never able to play baseball again. So he hears this voice, if you build it, he will come. And who shows up to this diamond? Shoeless Joe Jackson. Now, you understand what's happening here is baseball is transcending death. You get this, right? And this is a very, very spiritual, right, transcendent, metaphysical, movie. It's a wild movie, right? And the only place Shoeless Joe Jackson can exist out of the realm of eternity in this world is in the diamond. So when they invite Shoeless Joe to come in the house, he can't. He can't leave the baseball diamond because the baseball diamond itself participates in the field of eternity. Like the field of dreams itself is part of the field of eternity. Does everyone get that? It's beautiful. It's a crazy, beautiful movie. And, come not to one mountain, come to our sister, to the Outrageous Love Festival, to our summer intensive. We're going to look at a lot of clips here, and it's wildly beautiful. So Shoeless Joe Jackson comes, and then all the other players that were thrown out of the league come, and they start playing baseball in this field, right? But the only people that can see them playing are Kevin Costner, his wife, and their daughter. But his brother-in-law, Ray, kind of represents, the ordinary world, and they can't see what's happening here. All they see is this crazy baseball diamond, and they're coming to foreclose on the property because they've cut down, too much of the crops, so they can't actually turn a profit. And he's about to lose the farm the next day, and Ray is saying, you got to sell the farm, man. I'm going to get you a good price. Sell it, right, and get rid of this baseball diamond, right? And Kevin Costner saying, no, we're not going to sell. And then his daughter at a certain point says, Daddy, we don't have to sell the farm. She has this almost kind of prophetic voice, right? And Ray, right, her uncle and Kevin's brother-in-law, says, Karen, please, just wait, right? And then she says, people will come. And then Kevin Costner turns to his daughter, right? What people, sweetheart? And she says, from what? From all over. They'll just decide to take a vacation and they'll come to Iowa City, right? And they'll think it's really boring, so they'll want to pay us, like buying a ticket. And Ray says, right, to his brother-in-law, are you crazy? You seriously listening to your daughter? Right? Are you? And he says, yes. Right? Wait a minute. Why would anyone come to pay here? Why would anyone pay money to come here? And she says, to watch the games. It will be just like when they were kids a long time ago. They'll watch the game and remember what it was like. Right? And Ray says, the brother-in-law who wants to foreclose the property, what the hell is she talking about? And she says, people will come. Right? And Ray says, all right, this is fascinating, but you don't have the money to bring the mortgage up to date, so you're still going to have to sell. Right? And Kevin Costner says, I'm sorry, Ray, we got no choice, right? People will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom, right? They'll turn up in your driveway not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only X dollars per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it's money they have and peace they like. And of course, now the brother-in-law, right, who wants to foreclose because Kevin Costner's got no money to pay his bills because he's built this baseball stadium, thinks that his niece is crazy, says, Ray, just sign the papers. But the daughter keeps talking. No, then they'll walk off to the bleachers and sit in their shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes, and they'll watch the game, and it will be as if they dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick, and they'll have to brush them away, the memories from their faces. Right? And then, Ray, the brother-in-law, he can't take this. He says, when the bank opens in the morning, they'll foreclose, but the daughter keeps talking. People will come, Ray. Right? And then Ray breaks in, you're broke, you sell now or you'll lose everything. But she keeps talking. The one constant through all the years, she says, right, Kevin Costner says, the one constant through all the years, right, Ray, has been baseball. The one constant through all the years has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again, and this is true about Europe. But baseball has marked the time, the field, this game, it's part of our past. It's part of who we are. It reminds us, right? It reminds us, right? Listen to this. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be good again. People will come. People will most definitely come. It's an amazing scene, huh? Does everyone get that scene? It's easy to click out during that scene, but it's an amazing, amazing scene. And at some point, she falls, she gets hurt. One of the players was actually a doctor, right, who had kind of come from a different point in the wheel of time, actually steps out of the field to treat her and takes care of the daughter after she falls. They were sitting on the bleachers talking in this conversation. She falls. He takes care of her. And for the first time, Ray can actually see the players. And Ray completely does a 180-degree turnaround, and he says to Kevin Costner, you can't sell. So what's this scene about, friends? The scene is about the good. Right? Baseball, it's the key scene in the Field of Dreams. Baseball reminds me of the good in everything that's good. Baseball incarnates value. And sports at its best, but baseball and soccer are the best incarnations of them. Right? Baseball incarnates value. And let's just take a look at baseball. Number one, there's a cathedral. There's a temple. And then temple's the baseball stadium. And when I came with Zion to Oracle Stadium on Wednesday morning in June, and it was early in the morning, and we were like the third or fourth ones in the stadium. We got up, really early to get there early, and you see this gorgeous baseball diamond in this beautiful stadium, and you realize this is a temple. It's a temple. And people are coming to the temple like people have always come to temples. This is what Susan Sarandon calls, right at the beginning of Bull Durham, this is the church of baseball. Number two, right, baseball incarnates ritual, right? Baseball has a ritual. Baseball has, right, a set of rituals that hold us. But it's more than that, right? Number three, baseball has principles. There's a set of principles, right? There's a set of laws in baseball, right? Which are about how the game is played. And everyone subscribes, right, to the same principles. And those principles are about eliciting greatness and excellence from the players. So those principles are about what? They're about eliciting, right, excellence and greatness from the players. That's three. Four, the goal of baseball is to come home. A home run, right? Right? Tom wrote me this morning, I'm in the home stretch, meaning I want to come home. The goal of baseball, like the goal of spirit, of value, is to dream our way home and to live those dreams and to find our way home. That's what baseball is about. It's about getting home. Right? And it's not just about getting home myself. Sometimes I sacrifice fly so someone else can get home. It's about the whole team coming home. It's about, right, driving other people home. But the movement in baseball, number four, is a movement towards home. Number five, of course, baseball has holy men and holy women, right? When it's played by women. And we'll talk about that movie, A League of Their Own, when baseball was played by women in the United States, beginning in World War II from 1943 or 44 till 1954. Incredible story. But baseball has saints, right? Baseball has, right? Baseball has, right, saints. It has heroes, right? Just like any great system of spiritual transformation does. Just baseball has saints and heroes, and I want to say something about those saints and heroes. They're not like movie stars. So they're not like movie stars. Movie stars are about celebrity, right? It's a superficial structure or, phenomenology of celebrity, right? Baseball heroes are different. Baseball heroes are about incarnating value. It's why in Field of Dreams, when shoeless Joe Jackson was accused of cheating and thrown out of baseball, it was so devastating. Shoeless Joe Jackson says to Kevin Costner, it was like having my arm, my legs amputated. Right? Not just because I couldn't play baseball, because baseball's value, and it's why building the stadium, if you build it, he will come. Right? And fixing that false accusation, right, and restoring value, right, was this great, right, mystical moment in Field of Dreams, right? And so the heroes of baseball, the saints of baseball, right, are not just celebrity in that kind of superficial, shallow sense, but they're meant in their ideal form to incarnate value. I remember I grew up in part in Columbus, Ohio, which was near Cincinnati. And it was a time when Sparky Anderson was the coach of the Cincinnati Reds, which was then called the Big Red Machine, right? And whoever remembers baseball, Terry, this is for you. Tom, this is for you. Suzette, this might be for you, right? This was the Big Red Machine, and it was Pete Rose and, Johnny Bench and Dave Concepcion and Tony Perez, right? Right, this incredible, right, Johnny Bench, that's right, this incredible team, right, this kind of wild team. Sparky Anderson is the coach, right, and then Pete Rose, right, is accused of doing something which is unethical, which is this very small infraction, but it's a violation of value, and Pete Rose is now out of baseball, and everyone's devastated because the baseball hero, this is number five, is not a movie star. It's a different quality of hero, at least in its ideal, if you will, platonic form. So that's five, right? Six. And maybe to say one more thing, there's this great scene, and we should make a clip of it for sure, right? Ujis, Krista, right? Team, right? From the movie Sandlot. It's one of the five baseball movies, and it's this movie about this ball which is signed by Babe Ruth. And it's a growing up story through baseball about two kids, actually a group of kids in this neighborhood. It's a fantastic baseball movie. But there's this moment twice in the movie, they talk about Babe Ruth, and they talk about, he's the great Bambino, right? And they go through all the nicknames of Babe Ruth. It's a fantastic scene. It appears twice in the movie. where you get the sense of who Babe Ruth was. And the movie opens, this is the second great clip from Sandlot. The second great clip is the opening of the movie, where the announcer says in 1932, right, the world changed. It was the World Series. It was, ninth inning, and Babe Ruth was up, and he nods to center field, with his bat, saying, wow, I'm going to have a home run into the stands there. It had never been done before. And then he went and did it, right? And then a superhero was born, a super titan, right? This notion of, right, that's baseball. I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, right? This Promethean human capacity, right, to fulfill and to show up as value, right? So that's number 5, right? Number 5, right? Number six, right? In baseball, everything and everyone is accountable. Just like there's, in the great traditions, there's this book of life, right? Because we count, we're accountable. In baseball, we count. We count home runs, and we count stolen bases, and we count RBIs, and we count, right? Now, everything counts. There's a ledger, right? There's a public ledger in baseball, right? And all of the history, right, of each player is public and available, and there's no advertising, and there's no, image, and there's no branding, right, that can change that. Right? That's actually the original blockchain, right, is baseball, right, when it's immutable, and it's there, and it's for public witness. Okay, so that's number 6. Right, number 7, you with us, everybody? It's beautiful. Number 7, and I want to thank my friend Topher. Right, Topher Nelson. Topher and I worked on this in Holy of Holies. Right, number 7. When you're up in baseball, most of the time you fail. So baseball is the ritualized experience of failure. Wow, 7 out of 10 times you don't get on base. You either fly out, right, sat right, you fly out, you strike out. But basically, most of baseball, right, for the batter is spent failing. Wow. And if you have a 300 average in baseball, you're batting 300, that's unbelievable. You have a lifetime average of batting 300, that's unbelievable. 350 is like insane, right? Because basically most of the time, you're failing, right? So baseball is the ritualized human experience, right, of failing again and again and again, and not losing heart, and holding, and being of brave heart, right? And getting up to the plate again and again, and not falling into resignation, and working with it again and again, and then picking up that bat and getting in the kind of right form, right? And being willing to give it everything you have, and to show up and to wake up, right, with all of your energy and all of your passion and all of your potency and all of your power, and it all begins again, right? It all begins again every time you come up for bat, right? So baseball is, right, so number 7 is baseball is about failure, how you live in failure without losing heart, right? That's number 7. The number 8 is, and it all begins again every time you come up to bat. And it's every time you come up to bat, you can change your record. Every time you come up to bat, you can actually be a hero. Every time you come up to bat, you can actually lift that stadium to its feet with ecstatic exultancy that will blow your heart and mind open, right? And you can actually be cheered by all of reality for showing up with everything you got, right? In other words, in baseball, yesterday doesn't determine today, right? Every time, right, you get to start again, right? That's number 8, and it's gorgeous. And who you are in baseball is not just your record, but there's these greatest moments, and that's number 9, right? Remember that principle? The essence of who I am, right, is revealed, right, in my moment of greatness. So there's moments of greatness, right, that are wildly valued, right? Gorgeous. Okay, what number are we at? Stay with us, guys. Stay with us. What number was that? What was 9? Did we get 9 down? Right, you can change it. 8, 9. So good, we're at 9. We're at 9. Fantastic. Okay, okay, that's 9. Now we're at 10. So 10 is the way you create greatness in baseball is both by how you hold failure and by connecting the dots of your moments of greatness, right? So when you connect the dots of your moments of greatness, then you get the story of your life. And one of the things we have in modern stadiums is they'll actually play you the game back in its moments of greatness at the end of the game. Or they'll play you yesterday's game, and they don't play for you all of the empty space, but that's actually part of it. You can't get rid of it. All of the empty space, right? All of the staying in, all of the strikeouts, all of the staying in deep right field or deep left field and not seeing a ball for 5 innings, but just staying there with steady presence, holding the field. Hold. You're holding the field. Right? That steady presence then creates those moments. And then when you link those moments together, you connect the dots, you get the greatness of your life. Right? Life is about connecting the dots of your moments of greatness, which you only get to do if you hold the field in between those moments and you don't collapse in them. So it's about moving beyond resignation, sitting in the emptiness until it fills up with those moments of greatness and connecting those dots together, which become the story of your life. Okay, so that's 10. That's a big one. 11. Right? Baseball is unique because it's about autonomy and communion together. You know, basketball is team. There's a big team. The team moves together down the court. Players stand out, so you've got some autonomy and communion, right? But in baseball, you have it in a much more extreme form, right? Because each player, all 9 of them, are in their own position, whether it's the shortstop or one of the basemen, or, you know, deep in the outfield, or you're batting, or you're catching, or you're pitching. You're both in the communion of the team. We all need each other, and yet you're also highly individuated right in your place. And it's really about you. And it's about you being in that lonely, singular, beautiful place in the context of a larger communion, because you realize, wow, there's people, right? One mountain, people all over the world holding a piece, but you're holding your own piece. And it's different than basketball. You don't get absorbed in the team. It's different than soccer even. Right? It's about, you know, there's a kind of singularity in baseball, which is very unique. So there's in the extreme communion of the team, right? And, right, there's this, right, radical individuality happening at the same time. So that's number 11, right? Number 12, and this is a very big deal. The field of value, which is the field of dreams, lives beyond the individual expressions of it. In other words, every baseball player is a unique self and a unique expression of that field of value. But even when that baseball player is done playing, and they move on in their lives, or they may even move on from this world, the field of value remains. The field of dream remains. So, for example, right, the Yankees are still the Yankees, and the Dodgers are still the Dodgers, and the Red Sox are still the Red Sox. Right? In fact, right? There's an unchangingness, right, to the field of value. And Fenway Park's been there for a long time in Boston, and Yankee Stadium, right? In other words, there's this sense of rootedness in an evolving but eternal field of value. So the Yankees remain, even if all the Yankees have changed. So the separate self of individual Yankees have disappeared. The unique selves have left their mark, and they've had their continuity, but the Yankees, which is, and the game, and the stadium, which are all expressions, right, of this magical field of value, right, the field of value remains. So what number is that? Okay, that would be 12. Did anyone get 12? Okay, so it's just called that, right, the eternity of the field of value, right, the stadium, right, the name of the team, right? You might hang up, right? Often you hang up the uniform and the number of one player, because that number always represents unique self. We talk about that in the book Soul Prints, right, in part 4, where I talk about a number as unique self. So you might hang up someone's number, but the uniforms, right, the fields, right, the diamond, right, the rules of the game, right, the ethos of the game, right, all of that remains. Okay, that's big. Okay, that's number 12. Right, number 13, which is a really big deal. Number 13 is about the following. Number 13 is about, right, the fact that you need constant practice, constant, rigorous, deep, beautiful practice to do really simple things with elegance and grace, right? That's a big sentence. You need constant practice, right, to do really simple things with beauty, elegance, and grace. And you can't always do them with beauty, elegance, and grace. You're going to strike out a lot of times. But actually, your life is connecting the dots of those moments of greatness when you did those simple things, those second simplicity things with beauty, elegance, and grace. And what do you do in baseball? You hit, you catch, you throw, you run. That's it. You hit, you throw, you catch, you run. That's the whole game. You hit, you throw, you catch, you run, you wait, you deal with failure. You're part of a team. Right? There's enormous practice to be able to catch that ball, right? To pitch that ball, right? To run the way you need to run, right? To throw. Right? So there's the sense of enormous practice to get those moments, right, of elegance and grace that are kind of unlike anything else, right? What number is that? So we'll do a couple more. What number was that? Who got that? What number was that? No, it wasn't 13, was it? I thought it was. Okay, we're just getting 13 now. This is 14 coming up, I think. That was 13 now. Okay, 14 now. Okay, play the inning, the game, the series. Okay, we didn't quite get 13. Okay, we'll get 13 afterwards. Okay, you guys will get that down afterwards. So I would call 13 enormous practice, constant practice to do simple things with elegance and grace. We got that? Okay, 14. 14 is in baseball, we surface the idea of healthy competition. Right? When we talk about one of the root causes of existential risk, we talk about reality being constructed in a success story where the story is actually rivalrous conflict governed by win-lose metrics. But that doesn't mean that we get rid of competition. No, competition's important, right? But the competition can't be zero-sum competition, right? If you didn't make it, you die, right? Right? In the kind of marketplace we've created in the world today, if you can't self-commodify, you actually quite literally die, right? You're actually written out of society. So competition is important, but can't be zero-sum competition. It's got to be rivalrous conflict. Is beautiful. Competition's healthy and beautiful. We shouldn't get rid of merit, right? That baseball represents merit, right? It's not a kind of communist system which got rid of merit and got rid of hierarchies of value and got rid of appropriate competition. Baseball is rivalrous conflict, but it's not just governed by win-lose metrics, although it is in part, but it's also governed by a field of dreams, by a field of value. Baseball's a field of value and sport and delight, which is bigger than just the rivalrous conflict. Right? The players are playing together in this shared field of value. And the shared field of value is much bigger, ultimately, than who wins the game. Right? So it's competition, it's healthy competition, but it's healthy competition on a team, right, with this dialectic between autonomy and communion. The team is larger than any individual player, and there's kind of a commitment to the larger field of value, the larger field of dreams, the field of baseball. Okay, wow. And there's an umpire, right? And the umpire makes calls, and those calls are binding, right? And so it's not a kind of crony capitalism. It's kind of a healthy, conscious, right, field of value and field of dreams. Now, I think you get a sense here, right, of, what we mean by this game, being this kind of, sacred play. So baseball incarnates value, and we've looked at 14 ways in which baseball incarnates value. And I want to just add two more pieces, and we'll finish with these. One of the ways you see how baseball incarnates value is you see that in this movie Field of Dreams, it says, baseball's good and it can be good again. So good is value. Good is the good, the true, and the beautiful. Second, and when you look at the movie The Natural with Robert Redford, it's a very subtle movie. And all 5 of these movies are worth watching. But The Natural is a very subtle movie. But Robert Redford, he has a childhood sweetheart. He's a natural. And very early scene in the movie, we should have a clip of this. His father says to him, like, you got a gift, son, but you can't rely on the gift. You got to practice. Right? People just rely on the gift, they fail. Then his father, just a few minutes later, has a stroke and dies under an oak tree. The next day, lightning, or that night, there's this storming night, and lightning hits the oak tree. And then Robert Redford, who's a kid, goes down to the oak tree where his father just died, and he makes a bat out of that oak tree where his father passed and where he had practiced with his father. And that bat's called Wonder Boy. And in the early scene, you see this girl watching him when he's a little kid, practicing, and they grow up. And right after his father dies, he gets drafted, and they're in love, and they're going to get married, and he says, I'll come back for you. Then he goes and he's on his way to the big leagues. He's on a train, and he meets this woman, and she kind of enchants him. She seduces him. And he walks into her room because she says, come meet me in my room. He walks into her room, like, what's this about? And she puts a veil over her face and she shoots him. And he disappears for 16 years. And the movie starts after those 16 years. We don't know what happened in the intervening time. And he's now coming back 16 years later to reclaim, right, that simple dream of baseball and value. And he kind of explodes onto the scene at age 36, and then he loses it until there's this scene where he sees a woman stand up. He's been in a slump for a long time, and that woman is that original girl that he was in love with. He can't quite see her, but he sees that she stood up. And you see actually the goddess rising. And they somehow align, even though he can't see her and doesn't know who it is, and he hits it out of the park. And he goes to find her and can't find her, but in the end they find each other. When she's in the stadium, he can actually find himself. And then actually, what the whole movie is about these forces that go to actually rig the movie, to rig the movie, to rig baseball, to have players sell out for the sake of commodifying baseball, and they actually offer him $20,000 to throw a game, right? This great violation of value, and they threaten to blackmail him because they have pictures of when this woman shot him, and they made it look like somehow, and she was apparently killed afterwards, and which had nothing to do with him. There was some terrible tragedy that happened there, but they threatened to frame him. And so he takes $20,000 because he has no choice, and then he realizes he just can't do it. I mean, it just says, he says, I won't do it. Just, this is over. I'm going to go play baseball. I'm not throwing the game, right? I can't violate value, essentially. So he goes to the game, and it's the game is hanging in the balance, and he can't quite find it. And the woman who was his old beloved, right, sends him a note because she has a son. He doesn't realize it's his son. When they made love right before he went on that train ride, right, to the majors. And she says to him, your son's in the stadium. And it's just like, right? And he becomes the father, and he becomes the man. And there's this incredible scene, right? And he shouldn't be playing the game because that bullet that was lodged in him from that original shot has kind of wreaked havoc. And his whole system could collapse if he even plays one more game, but he has to play. He puts his life on the line for value. And there's this last scene where just, he's up and he just connects with the ball, and you just see value at play as that ball hits that bat and it soars out of the stadium. And then the last scene is him pitching back and forth with his son. When I went on that baseball trip with Zion, there were 4 days together, and I had hurt my back quite badly. I was in some serious amount of pain. But at the end, Eitan said, Dad, let's throw the ball. Kind of like that scene at the end of the Redford movie, The Natural, the very end of the movie, and he gets together with the woman of his childhood and with his son, and they're throwing the ball back and forth. At the end of Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner with his father, right? They actually repair their relationship and they do a catch, right? It's unbelievable, right? And so here I am with Zion, and Zion says, hey, let's do a catch. And I don't have a mitt. So we go to a shop and we get this mitt, and it's not quite broken in, so they oil it for us. And, Zion and I go out to this field, and my back is in wrenching pain, but literally the pain disappeared. And we just spend, half hour just throwing the ball back and forth in that simple way, right? Value, right? Immeasurable value. And we both said maybe our favorite part of the whole trip, right, was just that half hour, throwing that ball back and forth. When we enter the field of dreams, the field of the father and son, the field of the immeasurable, the field of the non-commodifiable, right? The field of value, the field of transmission, right? That's baseball. Right? Baseball is value, right? Baseball is the magic of value. Baseball is common sense sacred axioms that modernity knew. And baseball and soccer, right? They both represent that same notion of value. And what we need to do is, after postmodernity deconstructed baseball, it deconstructed value, we need to reclaim it. We need to reclaim it at a higher level of consciousness. It can't be reclaimed as, right, common sense sacred axioms. We can't go backwards. We need to revision value. We need to begin to talk about first principles and first values. We need to explicate what value is based on. We need to respond to the academic critiques, which are true but partial, and to actually revision value. And that's what we've been working at the center, and be able to revision value and articulate a universal grammar of value that's real, right, is the source code move that changes reality. It's bigger than Darwin, right? It's bigger than Freud. It's bigger than Einstein, because it's not about the exterior, it's about the interior sciences. Imagine if we can articulate, right, a shared grammar of value, right? A baseball, a soccer, right, for humanity, in which we're all playing in that stadium. And we're all bound, right, by a larger vision of value. And yes, there's rivalrous conflict, but within the baseball diamond. The baseball diamond which participates in eternity, which transcends death. And that's the invitation, that's the possibility. And that's baseball. Right? Like, wow, right? And oh my God, right? And that's what it means. Right? Homo Amor is a baseball player. Right? Man or woman. In that movie, A League of Their Own, the last movie we mentioned, it's about women in World War II. And women in World War II, for the first time, were released from the home because men were on the front, and they began to work in the factories. They began to work in offices. And that actually seeded women's liberation 20, 30 years ago, because women didn't want to go back, right, to the old way. And so there's this moment where they start this league, and it's supposed to be for entertainment, but the women take baseball seriously, and they play this league gorgeously, beautifully. It's like women emerging in their power, right? Finding the depth of their masculine, integrating it with their feminine in this new feminine emerging, which is part of Homo Amor. And of course, the point is that women playing baseball in this new way foreshadows the emergence of the new feminine. That's the same theme. Homo Amor is the best baseball player, the best soccer player, right, that there ever was, right? Right? That's what it is, right? We're in the field of dreams together. We're in the field of value together. And it's in that field that we find each other, right? It's in that field, right, that we pray.